Last summer on the farm, I swapped my dying bull for something strange. I still don't understand. I was 35 and trying to save my family's farm. Year after year, I struggled with debt and failing crops. My bull was near death, and I knew I had to make a change. I stood in front of the old barn one evening when the sun dipped low, casting long shadows. It felt like time was running out. Desperation clouded my mind as I wandered through the fields. I hoped to find a miracle. That's when I saw the traveler. He appeared out of nowhere, a man with strange eyes and an unsettling smile. I still don't know why I trusted him. Maybe it was the look of someone who knew what I needed. "I'll trade you," he said, "your sick bull for this." He held out a small, smooth stone. At first I thought it was a joke, but the seriousness in his eyes made me hesitate. Maybe I could turn my luck around. I took the stone, feeling its coldness seep into my palm. That night, I stashed it away without thinking much of it. My heart told me I was making a mistake, but I brushed it off. Then, things began to change, strangely. In the following weeks, my crops started growing like I'd never seen. It was almost miraculous. But here's the thing, they only grew in patches. I showed my neighbors, eager to prove I wasn't losing my mind. But those patches didn't cover the entire farm, and soon my other crops shriveled up. Something wasn't right. I grew uneasy as whispers crept from the old barn at night. They were soft and blurred, twisting into my dreams. I felt watched. Shadows darted at the edge of my vision. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was my imagination gone wild. One night, a loud bang echoed through the silence. I sat up in bed, heart pounding in my chest. The darkness felt heavy. I crept to the window and peeked outside. The moonlight spilled into my yard, flickering off something dark near the barn. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I asked, my voice shaking. No answer came. The figure stood still. My instinct screamed at me to run, but curiosity held me in place. I stepped outside, cautious. What was happening? As I walked closer, my heart raced. The figure didn't move, but I could feel its presence. When I was close enough to see the outline, panic coursed through me. It looked just like my bull. I backpedaled, my breath quickening in fear. How could this be? My rational mind fought against what I was seeing. The night felt alive, electric with tension. I was trapped between confusion and terror, stuck on that path between my farm and whatever this creature was. Then it moved closer, and I realized it looked just like my bull. I couldn't understand where this would lead me, but I was starting to wish I had never made that trade. The shadows lingered, and I felt the echoes of the traveler's laughter haunting me under the moonlit sky. I stood frozen, staring at the creature that resembled my bull, caught between the familiar and the bizarre. It stepped forward, and my heart threatened to leap from my chest. The moonlight illuminated its features. Hollow eyes, heavy breathing, and a coat that seemed too dark for the night. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was witnessing something unreal. "Is that you?" I whispered, more to myself than to the creature. Part of me wanted to approach it, to reach out and confirm it was truly my bull. But I was paralyzed by dread. Instead, I backed away, slowly at first, then faster. I stumbled in the dark, tripping over a rock and hitting the ground hard. The shadow paused, as if assessing my fear. With a jolt, I scrambled to my feet and ran toward the house. The door slammed behind me, and I locked it, panting as I leaned against the cool wood. The walls felt like they were closing in. I could still see its silhouette through the window. It didn't move away. It stayed as if waiting. I wondered if I could convince myself I was dreaming, but deep down I knew this was real. A chill ran down my spine as I thought of the stone. What had I done? Desperation clawed at me. I needed answers. My eyes darted to the table where I had hidden the strange stone. It seemed to pulse, almost calling me. I reached for it, feeling its cool surface under my fingers. Maybe it held the key to what was happening if I knew how to use it. Suddenly a crash echoed from the barn. My instincts kicked in, and I felt the urgent pull of curiosity edging out my fear. I slipped out the back door and raced toward the sound, the darkness swallowing my flashlight beam. My hands trembled, and I held the stone tightly, as if it could offer protection. As I neared the barn, the heavy wooden doors creaked open. I looked inside, my breath caught in my throat. The air inside was thick with an unsettling tension. I took a cautious step forward. There, in the flickering light of a lantern, stood my bull, or the thing that looked like it. But it wasn't alone. Shadows twisted and shifted around it, coalescing into shapes that felt almost alive. I blinked and realized these weren't just shadows. They were figures, ethereal forms that danced around the creature, whispering in a language I couldn't understand. "Help me!" I shouted, frantic. The figures turned to me, their faces obscured. My heart raced, and I felt the weight of their gaze. The bull, the thing, snorted softly and took a step closer, its eyes glinting with something that felt like recognition. Then everything changed. The lantern flickered out, plunging the barn into darkness. A wave of panic crashed over me as I frantically fumbled to turn on my flashlight. But as I flicked it on, I was met with an empty barn, the figures now gone, leaving only the unsettling echo of their whispers. "What is going on?" I gasped, breathless, but before I could gather my thoughts, the front of the barn burst open again. I jerked around to see a figure standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the moonlight. "Where is it?" the voice demanded, low and menacing. My blood ran cold as I realized I wasn't alone anymore. I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out the figure in the barn door. My mind raced with possibilities, most of them grim. I said, "Where is it?" The voice sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it through the haze of fear. "What do you want?" I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. My heart thudded violently in my chest. The figure took a step forward, revealing ragged clothes and a face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. "You have something that belongs to me," he said, his voice dripping with menace. "What are you talking about?" I questioned, clutching the stone tightly in my pocket. Did he mean the bull? Did he know about the strange stone? He moved closer, and I instinctively took a step back. "You shouldn't have taken it. You don't know what it can do," he spat. "Maybe you should explain," I shot back, my hands shaking. I had no idea how to defend myself or what I was really up against. His eyes, glinting in the moonlight, bore into mine. "That creature was never meant for you. You've unleashed something you can't control." A surge of dread coursed through me. What does that even mean? Suddenly the air got colder. I could see my breath coming out in quick puffs. The barn felt alive with energy again, like it was holding its breath. I turned my gaze back to the shadowy corners, but there was no sign of the figures, just the malevolent presence of the stranger. "I came to warn you," he continued, drawing closer. "You've opened a door, and now the others are coming." Others? My mind flashed back to the figures I had seen with my bull. Had they been trying to communicate? My gaze was drawn back to the doorway, as the lantern flickered back to life, illuminating the barn's interior. And that's when I saw it. In the far corner, the bull stood, but it looked different now. The dark coat glistened and its eyes were wild, filled with a primal energy. A low growl rumbled from its throat, vibrating through the floor like a warning. "See, you've already lost control," the stranger smirked. "You think you can just undo what has been done?" Panic ignited within me. "I don't want this," I shouted. My mind was racing. What could I do? The only thing I had was the stone, but could it really help me now? Before I could make a decision, the bull charged forward, smashing through the empty hay bales. The barn shook, dust swirling in the air. "Get out!" I screamed at the stranger, but he didn't move. Instead, he watched with a twisted look of satisfaction. "What's happening?" I cried as the bull reared back, eyes fixed on me. The stranger laughed, a dark, chilling sound that echoed through the barn. "You're about to find out," And in that moment, everything changed. The air felt charged with anticipation, and I braced myself for whatever terrifying truth was about to be revealed. I barely had time to react before the bull lunged. I turned on my heel, sprinting toward the barn's exit. The wooden floor creaked beneath my feet, and I could hear the beast's heavy hooves pounding behind me. Panic flooded my senses. I had to get out. I hurtled through the doorway just as the bull crashed against the barn wall. The sudden blast of fresh air felt like life itself. But I didn't stop to breathe. I ran into the moonlit yard, glancing over my shoulder. The stranger followed, his eyes aglow with feverish excitement. "You think you can escape?" he yelled, his voice carrying a strange mix of glee and rage. "You've invited chaos into your world." I didn't know what he meant, but I could feel something deep inside me stir, like a low hum resonating with the night around us. The bull let out a powerful bellow, drowning out everything. In the yard, I skidded to a halt. Without the barn's protection, I felt exposed. I turned again, looking for a weapon, anything I could use. The shadows danced around me and fear constricted my throat. Then I remembered the stone. I fumbled in my pocket, fingers grazing its rough surface. The stranger's laughter rang out, sharp and biting. "What do you think you're doing? That won't help you now." I lifted the stone, its weight oddly reassuring. "Maybe it can," I shouted back, feeling a flicker of defiance rising within me. "You said it was never meant for me. What if it was meant for this?" With that, I hurled the stone toward the bull. Time slowed as it sailed through the air, glinting in the moonlight. The bull stopped, its eyes locking onto it. For a brief moment, everything paused. The tension hung thick like fog. Then the stone hit the ground and shattered. A crack of energy surged from the impact, bright and blinding, consuming everything in its radius. "No!" the stranger screamed, his features contorting in anger and disbelief. I shielded my eyes, but I could sense a shift. The ground trembled beneath me, and I felt the pull of something powerful. The bull, previously wild and frenzied, suddenly calmed. Its eyes softened, and it stood stock still. This was it, the moment where I took control. But as the light faded, I saw movement from the shadows. Figures began to emerge, spectral, fading forms that mirrored the bull's primal energy. They glided silently toward me, their faces obscured, but I could feel their intent. "What are you?" I murmured, my voice barely escaping my trembling lips. The stranger was shouting now, but I could hardly hear him over the rising murmur of the figures. They surrounded me, sparking with energy, and for an instant I thought I saw a hand reaching out. I stumbled backward, my heart racing. I had unleashed something beyond my understanding, and now I wasn't just facing a bull or a stranger. I was caught in a web of forces I couldn't begin to comprehend. Just as I turned to flee, the ground beneath me cracked open. "You're too late," the stranger howled, and my chest tightened. Everything was getting darker, and a chilling cold enveloped me. I was nearing the edge of a precipice, and I knew whatever was coming next would change everything. I stumbled as the ground beneath me fissured, opening up like a terrible wound. I felt the cold rush of air from the abyss engulfing me. My instincts screamed at me to run, to escape whatever horror was unfolding. But where could I go? The figures surrounding me were now pulsating, their shapes flickering in and out of focus. They exuded an energy that was both frightening and oddly soothing. I strained to catch their whispers, a steady stream of voices merging into unintelligible murmurs. The cold sank deeper into my bones, and dread weighed me down like an anchor. "Get away from me," I shouted, stepping back, but the darkness stretched behind me, and I had nowhere to go. Just then, one of the spectral figures reached out, a shimmering hand gliding through the air. It hovered just inches from my face, and I flinched back. The stranger's laughter echoed high and manic. "You've awakened them. They were waiting for someone. And now, they'll take you." His excitement morphed into a guttural growl. You think you can control this? Control what? I shot back, fighting to keep my voice steady. I didn't have the faintest idea of what I had unleashed. Panic clawed at my throat again, but I forced it down. Something about the figures felt less like a threat and more like a call. Suddenly, one of the figures stepped closer, the aura around it glowing brighter. It was impossible to make out its features, but I could feel an overwhelming sense of yearning mixed with sorrow. The stone's energy reverberated in the air, drawing me in. "Wait," I breathed, my heart still racing. "What do you want?" The spectral being trembled, and its voice broke through the chorus of whispers. "The bond is severed," it said, each word slow and deliberate. "Redeem what was lost." The earth rumbled beneath me, a warning rumble that made me grit my teeth. "What are you talking about?" I asked, the fear in my voice creeping back. Before the figure could respond, the ground shattered completely, and I felt myself plummeting. The sensation was like being caught in a whirlpool, but my mind quickly grasped at my surroundings. I clutched at the air, desperate to steady myself. My thoughts raced back to the bull. What had I done, and what was it I had set in motion? Before I hit the ground, I gasped as a wave of warmth enveloped me like a comforting blanket. I opened my eyes, expecting darkness, but found myself suspended in an ethereal landscape, a vivid explosion of colors swirling all around. "No, you don't have time for this." The stranger's voice cut through the beauty, laced with anger. I turned, and he loomed larger than life at the edge of the fissure, his form a dark figure against the kaleidoscope of light. "Why do you want to stop me?" I demanded, feeling stronger in this space, like I had a purpose now. "What do you gain from all this chaos?" He bared his teeth, rage sparking in his gaze. "You think it's you who has power? You're just a pawn." A shudder ran through my body. "No, I'll make my own choices." I felt my determination solidify. Maybe I didn't understand this world yet, but I needed to try. I focused on the energy pulsating within me and raised my hands toward the figures, hoping they would guide me. I had no idea what the consequences would be, but it felt like the only path forward. That's when I saw it. A glimmer of something beyond the swirl of colors. It flickered at the edge of my vision, and my heart raced. "What is that?" I murmured, something within me shifting as I reached out toward it. Before I could grasp it, the ground shook violently and the warmth began to fade. I was running out of time. The world around me twisted as I reached for the glimmer. It seemed to pulse with life, beckoning me closer even as the darkness loomed at the edges of this strange reality. Just as my fingertips grazed the surface of whatever it was, the vibrant colors blinked out, replaced by a suffocating gray. I gasped, struggling against the invisible pressure that pulled me down. "No!" My voice echoed, filled with panic, but there was no response. The spectral figures faded into shadows, their whispering replaced by an eerie silence. In their absence, the thrum of energy was gone, leaving me exposed. The moment hung heavy. I felt the weight of 100 eyes. No, it was just my imagination, but it made my skin prickle. Then, the ground rippled beneath me, not like before, but with a warning tremor. I steadied myself, sensing something new building. That's when I caught sight of a flicker of movement near the edge of the chasm. It wasn't one of the figures, but something else. I squinted, struggling to focus on it. The stranger saw it too, and his expression morphed from anger to confusion. "What now?" he hissed, eyes narrowing. "You've gone too far." "What is it?" I demanded. My curiosity was mixed with a stubborn resolve. Whatever this was, I needed to find out. The strange figure drew closer. A small creature, no larger than a cat, emerged from the shadows. Its body shimmered with the same energy as the spectral beings, and it had mismatched eyes that seemed to see into my soul. "What are you?" I breathed. It tipped its head, almost like it understood me. The creature turned, darting toward the ground, then looked back at me expectantly. Something about its presence felt urgent, as if it wanted me to follow. "Wait! Don't go!" I shouted as it vanished beneath the surface of the crack. I hesitated, torn between instinct and purpose. The ground beneath me rumbled again, this time more violently, shaking the air around me. "You need to leave," the stranger yelled, a desperate plea slipping into his voice. "You're unearthing what you cannot control." Without considering the risks, I leaped toward the fissure. I had to know what the creature was leading me to. I felt the air shift as I dove through the crack, plunging into deeper darkness as colors swirled around me once more, clawing at my senses. The feeling of warmth enveloped me again, this time stronger, a fire igniting within my chest. Just as I thought I'd lose my grip, I landed on something solid, a platform made of the same energy that had drawn me here. It pulsed gently beneath my feet, and before me was an opening leading into a cavern, illuminated by the same light that surrounded me when I first arrived. But there was something else, an intricate mural covering the walls, depicting scenes of celestial beings entwined in strife and harmony. "What is this?" I whispered, awe mixing with dread. That was when the shadows coalesced into figures, not spectral, but solid, their eyes glinting with recognition. Their faces bore resemblance to the creature I had followed. They watched me with scrutiny, and even from a distance, I felt their power. "Welcome," one of them said, voice woven with centuries of wisdom. "You have come to claim what is yours, but first you must answer." I took a step back, uncertainty crashing over me again like waves. "Answer what?" "Your truth," the voice said. "Only then can the bond be mended." I felt the ground shift, and the colors swirled around me once more. I had stepped into a new realm, but I was still trapped by an old fight. As I steeled myself for the coming confrontation, I could only wonder what this truth would reveal. The figures loomed closer, their expressions unreadable. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. My heart raced, pounding in my chest like a drum. "What truth?" I stammered. "What do you mean?" "Your past," the wise voice replied. It echoed around the cavern. "It has brought you here. It holds the key." The weight of their words settled over me. I felt my pulse quicken. Memories flooded my mind, fragments of a life I'd tried to escape. Shaky moments on the farm, the struggle to keep the land alive, and the hard decision to trade away my bull, a desperate attempt to cling to something beyond a faint hope. I had thought I could find freedom from the biting reality. "You think you know me," I said, my voice trembling, "but I'm nothing special." The creature I had followed darted around the cavern, weaving between the figures. It paused, watching me, its mismatched eyes urging me to acknowledge something deep within. "Answer our call," another figure insisted, stepping forward. It had an ethereal glow and fiery determination. "Only then can the bond be restored." "Bond?" I echoed. "What bond?" "Between realms," the first voice replied. "Your actions created a rift. Only you can mend it." I felt my mind whir. A rift? I had been running from my choices, not embracing them. Here in this strange place, I'd stumbled into the core of my fears, and that nagging guilt. The haunting regrets were not just flashes of memory, they were the cause of this chaos. I took a shaky breath. I traded my bull because I thought it was the only way to make a future, I confessed. The words tumbled out, raw and unsettling. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared of losing everything, scared of staying trapped. As the last words left my mouth, the cavern trembled. The figures paused, their eyes narrowing. I braced myself, not sure whether the tremor was a sign of approval or something darker. "Admit your fear, and you can reclaim what you lost," the wise voice urged. "It shall not be easy, but fear can bind or break us. What do you choose?" I looked around, my pulse quickening. I hadn't just lost my bull, I had lost a part of myself, a chance to connect with my roots, my history. With every beat of my heart, clarity seeped into my veins. "I choose to face it," I said, my voice stronger now. "I want to reclaim my roots." The ground beneath me shook again with renewed intensity. The energy surged through the room, flickering light cascading across the walls where the murals started to shimmer. It felt alive, responding to my declaration. Suddenly, an intense force swept through, pulling at my very essence. I gasped, struggling to hold my ground as shadows spiraled up, a whirlwind of energy and fear. In that moment, I understood. To reconnect, I had to confront not only my past, but whatever force had come alive with my admission. But I had no clue what was waiting for me, or if I would be able to confront it at all. Just as the maelstrom reached its peak, I caught sight of the creature again, its eyes solid and bright, as if ready to guide me through the storm. "Help me!" I shouted amidst the chaos, a plea echoing into the unknown. It was now or never. I had stepped forward, but what awaited me on the other side remained shrouded in darkness. The chaos surged around me, shadows swirling like angry ghosts. I tried to focus on the creature, hoping it would lead me to salvation. "What do I do?" I yelled again, my voice barely cutting through the noise. The figures around me kept their distance, their features swirling in and out of visibility. Just then, as if responding to my need, the creature leapt toward the center of the storm. Its mismatched eyes locked onto mine, radiating an odd mixture of courage and compassion. It seemed to beckon me to follow, and I took a hesitant step forward. A blinding light erupted from the ground, illuminating the cavern as the figures whispered a chant. I couldn't make out the words, but I felt them wash over me like a soothing mist. "Face your truth," the wise voice echoed again. "What once was lost can be found." As I moved closer, the swirling energy grew more volatile. It tugged at my clothes and hair, pulling me in various directions. My heart raced, and fear gnawed at the edges of my determination. I caught a glimpse of the mural again, a depiction of farmers and livestock, a harvest celebration, and then my bull. The sadness washed over me anew. Why had I given him up? The day had been bright, but my spirits were low. I had clutched the worn leather reins in my hands, torn between survival and what felt like betrayal. "Can I really do this?" I murmured to myself, voice strained as I approached the center. That was then, the creature seemed to say, darting closer and giving me a nudge. "This is now." Taking a deep breath, I plunged forward into the heart of the chaos. It was like stepping into a different world. Blinding white lights and dark tendrils coiled around me, whispering confusing messages. "What do you want from me?" I shouted to the swirling shadows, my voice growing stronger. Then, abruptly, the noise died down. The wind ceased to howl. My surroundings shifted, and I found myself standing on familiar ground, my old farm, lush and thriving. The sun painted everything warm and golden. There was my bull, grazing peacefully as if the last year had never happened. I stumbled back, heart racing. It was a cruel trick. "No, this can't be real," I gasped. The memories rushed back, of laughter, of warmth, of love for my land. But they were mixed with the sharp sting of regret. I realized this wasn't just about the bull. It was about my home, my family, and my choices leading to this moment. Suddenly I heard the haunting whispers again, but they held a new tone, urgent and pleading. "Reclaim what you've lost. Accept your fear and embrace your journey." With newfound resolve, I stepped forward. "I'm ready to confront my fear," I declared, the words echoing loudly around me. But just as I felt a shift in the air, the idyllic scene flickered like a broken film reel. "Wait!" I shouted, but the ground rumbled beneath me once more and everything plunged into darkness. That's when I felt a sharp pain in my chest, and the ground trembled violently. My stomach twisted, and I fell to my knees. Something was wrong. I looked up, barely able to see through the darkness. There, in the shadows, something moved. A figure emerged, looming, pulsing with an imperceptible threat. My heart raced as I realized I was not alone anymore. "Who are you?" I croaked, fear seizing me fully once more, but there was no answer. Only the echo of my own voice vibrating with dread as I prepared to face whatever darkness awaited me. The darkness thickened, pressing in on me like a heavy blanket. I blinked, trying to adjust my eyes, but it didn't help. The figure stood there, shrouded in shadow, yet I could feel its gaze boring into me. "What do you want?" I croaked again, more desperate this time. Just as I thought I might sink into madness, the creature that had guided me earlier darted past me. It circled the looming figure as if challenging it. "Don't be afraid," I called out, my voice trembling. The creature's courage was infectious. I couldn't let fear consume me now. The figure shifted, and in an instant I felt a surge of energy ripple through the air. A rush of wind whipped around me, forcing me to stagger back. I shielded my face and tried to regain my balance. "What is this? Show yourself," I shouted, my words propelled by anger rather than fear. Then I felt it, the pulse of power resonating between us. It was like a heartbeat echoing in the darkness. I took a small step forward, driven by instinct. The shadows twisted and contorted, revealing glimpses of a face that felt unbelievably familiar. My breath hitched. No, it can't be. I recognized those eyes. They were the same as mine. "What do you want?" I repeated, though my voice barely carried over the renewed winds. "Face yourself." It seemed to whisper, a sound barely above a breath. The shadows began to part, revealing fragments of my past. Memory after memory unfurled, projecting images in front of me. There was my bull again, but this time he stood in a barn, his coat glossy under soft sunlight. I saw myself as a young girl, laughing while feeding him hay. I snapped back to the present, panic rising. "You can't expect me to confront all of this," I cried out, but each image felt heavier, weighing me down. The shadows murmured around me, resonating in a rhythm that echoed my heartbeat. "It's time to reclaim your past," they said, insistently. I stared into the abyss where the figure loomed, unable to comprehend the nature of this encounter. I clutched my chest, the pain shooting through me again, deeper this time. "But what if I don't want to?" I whispered, the fear crawling back. "What if I fail?" The figure lunged forward, and I braced myself for an attack, but instead it merely extended a hand. The shadows softened, turning lighter, and within the darkness, I caught the glimpse of a horned silhouette, a reminder of my bull, a key to my strength. "This is not just a confrontation, it's an invitation," the figure said, its voice strangely comforting now. "Accept it." I swallowed hard, glancing from the outstretched hand to the swirling shadows surrounding me. "Accept what?" I spat back, unsure if I could trust this presence. "Your choices, your pain, everything that makes you whole," it replied, undeterred. Taking a step back felt impossible. The energy surged again, demanding my response. Just as my mind started to race, I felt the ground disappear beneath me. The ground trembled violently, and I gasped, realizing I was falling into that familiar void. "Wait!" I screamed, grasping at the air as I plummeted into darkness. Suddenly something tugged at me, a rope of light in the endless abyss. I reached for it instinctively and felt warmth envelop me. "You can reclaim yourself," a voice echoed just before the darkness swallowed everything around me. I fell for what felt like an eternity before the pull of light tightened around me, and suddenly I tumbled onto familiar soil, the warmth of earth grounding me once again. I gasped, blinking against the brightness. I was back on my farm, perfectly intact, the way I remembered it. My heart raced as I stood on the grass, the sky radiant above, but an unsettling feeling gripped me. I looked around. The bull was there, my bull, munching innocently on a patch of grass. My knees weakened, and I sank onto the ground, hand pressed against the cool earth. Had it all been a dream? Or was that realm a warning of what could come if I allowed fear and desperation to dictate my choices? But even as I pondered this, an echo of disquiet stirred in the back of my mind. The stranger's words whispered on the wind. "You've opened a door, and now the others are coming." I glanced toward the barn, where shadows danced in idle movements. Could it happen again? I had traded my bull for the promise of prosperity, but at what cost? Feeling a ripple of anxiety wash over me, I cautiously made my way to the barn. The door creaked open, revealing a familiar sight: hammers, hay bales, and the remnants of chaos mixed with memories. I saw the shadow of the stranger, still lurking somewhere in the recesses. The memories of the chapter I thought I had closed began to seep back in, and I braced myself. Was it all a trick? I whispered, half to myself, half to whatever faded presence occupied that space. I could almost feel it resist my presence, lingering like a drifting cloud. You warned me, but how could I have known the consequences? The air felt charged, beckoning me to confront the whispers that lingered, those shadowy figures, the threats they embodied. I reached for the stone, still tucked deep in my pocket. It had been warmth and chaos, control and uncertainty, all bound to one smooth, cold form. Did I dare touch it again? Suddenly the corners of the barn darkened, the spectres becoming more prominent, their outlines shifting and swirling. They moaned softly, echoes of a world beyond. Their expressions were indistinct, but their energy wrapped me in a swirl of emotions I hardly understood. Each pulse resonated, and the pull within my heart urged me closer to the truth. "What do you want?" I called out, standing firm. "What must I do?" The shadows paused at my question, as if weighing my words. Light flickered, illuminating the barn in a vivid embrace. "Redeem what you have forsaken," they seemed to whisper, their voices melding into a hypnotic hum. Fear curdled in my stomach. I had fought to keep my family, my farm, alive, and yet I felt the remnants of my fears wrapping around me like tendrils, wrestling for control. A shattering reminder pierced through the silence. The stranger had warned me of a door opened, of consequences not entirely clear yet. But what consequences? Had I truly altered the fabric of my existence, or had I done what was needed to survive? I looked out at the fields, luscious and green, but something in me sensed an imbalance, a potential for chaos bubbling just beneath the surface. Could it really be that simple? I had survived this encounter, but was the door truly closed? "No," I shouted defiantly, clenching my fists. "I will not be ruled by fear or chaos." And as I claimed my resolve, the figures seemed to waver, uncertain. A flicker of light ignited in my chest. "You won't take that from me," I said, teeth gritted. "Even if you're a part of this, I choose to embrace who I am. I choose connection over fear." With that declaration, light radiated from within me, pouring into the shadows. The barn brightened, revealing not just their presence, but a connection woven through time. The haunting echoes quieted, and a sense of calm washed over me. The figure of my bull stepped forward, its dark coat gleaming in the light. Recognition passed between us, an understanding transcending words. As the silhouettes began to dissolve, retreating into the corners of my mind, I caught a final glimpse of the stranger lurking at the edge, watching me with an inscrutable expression. What I've done cannot be undone, I thought, wrestling with the ambiguity within my heart. The shadows may linger, and questions about reality's true nature would always remain. Whether the darkness was a figment of my fears or a glimpse into something far more profound. But with my bull by my side, back in the realm where I belonged, I felt a sense of resolve blossom. I couldn't know all the answers, but perhaps it was enough for now. As I stepped away from the barn, I considered the journey ahead, one that would challenge and reshape my understanding, leaving lingering questions that would always haunt the edges of my thoughts. But I was ready to return to the roots of my life, no longer held hostage by terror. I moved further into the fields, breathing in the crisp air, the sun blazing down, feeling the light wrap around me like a shield. Whatever awaited, I would meet it head-on. And maybe, just maybe, I had found strength in the very chaos I had once feared. I took one last look back at the barn, a smile tugging at my lips. "This is my home," I said quietly, both a conclusion and a beginning. And as the wind rustled through the grass, it carried with it an echo of something enduring, a connection to the past, and the promise of a future yet to be written.